Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another week here. And this week, we are going to create what's called a point layer. And then on the point layer, we're going to create a motion path. And then we're going to parent the object to the motion path. So this is a different way of creating a motion path where you create the motion path first, and then you attach the object to the path. So this is a really fun assignment. And so let's go ahead and get started. First thing we want to do is launch Hitfilm. Okay, so we're going to create new in the upper left here. And in this one, we are going to make our video 960 by 780. So for our template here, we're going to go all the way down to custom. So 960 by 780, I believe. Yeah, okay. So custom template 960 by 780. Our frame rate is going to be 29.97, so 30 is fine, or you can actually even change it to 29.97 there. And our time is going to be 10 seconds to start. So here it's set up for 5 hours. We're going to change the 5 to 0 there, and then move over just to the right there and create seconds there. So 5 seconds. Click OK. And there's our layout for this project. Before we begin, however, we're going to get our resources here. So let's go to Canvas. Actually, first thing I want to do is create a folder on my desktop. So new folder. And we're going to call this Project 6 Resources. Okay. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to save a car and a racetrack into this folder here. So first thing I'm going to do is go to Canvas and grab those resources that I need. Let's move this folder out over here maybe. Okay, so let's go into Canvas. Click into this week 7 module here, and you'll see a folder titled Resources for Motion Path Parenting Video. That purple link, you're going to click on that. You just pick one of these cars. So I'm just going to grab one of these cars. See if I can just drop it right in there. Let's see if that worked. Yes, it did. So there's my car. And then I'm going to use this racetrack here. But you can choose whichever ones you want. And the racetrack's in there. So basically you can just drag those into your folder onto your computer. You can use either car. The only thing I ask is if you use these cars, that you add something to them to customize them and make them your own. Okay, and I'll show you what that means here in just a few minutes. And one of these tracks where the car has to actually go under either a road or it has to go under this sign. I'll show you how you can accomplish that. Okay, before we begin our project, though, I want to work on the car. And I told you could use one of those cars, but you have to customize it a little bit so you make it your own. So I'm going to go ahead and click into my Project 6 resource folder. I'm going to use car 1. And what I'm going to do is just right click on it. And I'm just going to go ahead and open with GIMP. But again, it doesn't matter which car you use, just you want to customize it in some way. And in my case, I think I'm just going to put some stripes on this one. So you could do something like that. So I'm going to go in here to GIMP. And just open it with GIMP here. Close, okay. And so there we have the car, and I'm going to get rid of the border around it. So that's the first thing I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my fuzzy select tool and just select the outside of it if I can. Okay, and you can see I've gotten a lot of it, but not all of it. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my tool settings, tool options up in the upper right there. It looks like a little TV set. I'm going to click that. And let's bring the threshold up to about 50 or 54, let's say. Okay, there we go. Let's bring it up a little more to about 80. And there you can see I'm getting most of the car. I've still got a little bit of the gray on the outside of it. So I'm going to bring up the threshold to about 100. And that looks just about right. So that threshold can really help you get more shades of that lighter color until you get it all. And then I'm going to go ahead and just hit delete. Let's see here. I think I got everything selected. Let's go back to layers. And let's hit delete. And notice there I got all of the border around the car. And so now we have, looks like a purple background. Shift Control A to deselect, or better yet, let's grab our move tool and then Shift Control A to deselect. Okay. And let's see, we also want to get rid of the purple background if we can here. So let's go ahead and let's right click on the layer. Let's do what's called add alpha channel. So we're going to add the alpha channel to it. And then what we're going to do is select the purple and hit delete. And that should take care of the background. Yeah. So basically, then Shift Control A to deselect it. Basically, if you're having trouble deleting the background, you just right click on your layer and select add alpha channel right here down here. And I've already done that. So now we have an automobile with no background. So that's good. And now I'm going to add some stripes. So I want to add another layer. So I'm just going to click on the plus sign here on the bottom of the layer window. Click OK. And now we have another layer here. So I'm going to take my brush and add maybe a red stripe here. Let's get a nice shade of red here. Nice deeper. That looks pretty good right there. Maybe a little darker. That looks good. Click OK. And notice there I've got the wrong kind of brush. So I'm going to delete that. Control Z. For some reason it's not letting me delete it. So let's undo that. Undo paintbrush. I just did that under edit here. And let's switch our paintbrush here. So if I click on the brush tool here, go to my tool presets. Let's see, we want to change our paintbrush here. There we go. Click on this little document here, and we're just going to use a straight up like that. Yeah, that looks good there. Okay. And let's Control Z. We'll undo that. I was hitting the wrong one. And let's see if we can find a square brush. That looks pretty good right there. So I think that one could work for us. Let's use that one. Control Z. And let's see if we can up the size of it here. Let's go to our tool presets and bring the size of that brush up if we can. There we go. I'm liking the looks of that. And let's bring it up just a little bit more. We'll just get enough to cover about the whole thing here. So right there, I'm adding a little racing stripe. And notice there it's got some feathered edges there. So I'm wondering if I can fix that. Let me see what I can do here. Control Z. So we got size, spacing, hardness. Let's bring that all the way up to 100%. Spacing all the way down. Much better. Okay, so we've almost got it just about right there. I'm going to bring up the size here a little bit more. Just a little bit more. And that's just about perfect. Still a little large, though. Let's bring it down to about 725. So you can go in there and just type it in there as well. Delete those other numbers. There we go. Let's go back to 725 or so. Well, let's see here. 721. That looks good right there. Okay, so that's good. Then we'll do one over here. probably want to, let's see if we can match it here. Okay. We're just trying to go right on the other one here. That looks pretty good. Now what I'll do is I'll take my move tool and move this around to where it looks centered for the most part. That looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and grab our rectangular select tool. And we're just going to try to grab that here and hit delete. That looks pretty good. And then we'll move this over just a little bit. This time though, we'll grab the ellipse select tool. Try to get go with the curve there and hit delete. And that looks pretty good there. Okay, so Shift Control A to deselect it. It's pretty close. Let's zoom in on it too, and we can erase. Okay, and then we'll just grab the, again, we'll grab this selection here. Try to match that angle a little better. That looks pretty good right there. Go ahead and hit delete. Shift Control A. Okay, that looks pretty good. We can live with that. And then looking at this here, got a little bit of it, some of it's off there, so we're going to grab our rectangular select again. Just go right here, hit delete, Shift Control A. Oh, we didn't get it. Let's zoom in a little more here. There we go. And again, grab your rectangular select tool. We're just going to get a little chunk of that off of there. Okay, Shift Control A. That looks pretty good. I can live with that. All right, so let's zoom out here and see what we have so far. Hold down Control if you want to get the opposite here. My tools aren't working here for some reason. You can also click Zoom Out here in the upper right under your tool presets here. Okay, that looks pretty good. And let's do maybe one in the back as well. So let's just grab this one here. Here, let's go to the layers and make sure we're on the right layer here. Fuzzy select tool, grab that one, and we will just choose Shift and Alt. No, let's just take this one and Shift Alt, and just we can duplicate this thing like that. See what I did? I'm holding down Shift and Alt, and then I just make a duplicate and drag it over while I'm holding Shift and Alt. Control Shift A. Okay, so now that I have the stripe here, I want to delete everything on the inside of this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with my sphere tool and see if I can hopefully get the right angle here for the circle. That looks pretty good right there. And then I'm just going to hit delete and get rid of that. And then now I'll grab my, well, let's do Shift Control A. And now I'll grab my rectangular select tool and just select this area right here. Hit delete. Okay, and then Shift Control A. And now I want to delete this little part here that's covering the black trim on the window. So I'm going to zoom in. Okay, Control will give you the opposite. There we go. Same thing, grab my rectangular select tool and just select along there. Hit delete, and I'm done. Shift Control A. So now let's zoom out and see what we have here. So there I added some racing stripes there to kind of customize it. You can also add, you could add maybe a couple more on the top maybe. So let's go back to this layer here. Let's do Fuzzy Select tool. Just select this one. And we're going to, same thing, I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt and just drag this thing over. And do the same thing here. I'm going to select this one again. Hold down Shift and Alt. While I'm holding that down, click and drag these stripes over. And there I've got some nice racing stripes on the top. Shift Control A. And so there's my customization. I just added some racing stripes to the car. Okay. Once you do that, then you may want to resize your automobile. So I'm going to go up here to the scale tool. You click on your automobile, and then you could just click and drag and bring these down. But problem is, those are on their own layer. So before I do that, I want to get out of this. Let's reset. Or better yet, let's just grab another tool here. We're going to combine these two layers now into one. So you just make sure you're on one of the layers. Go up to Layer, and you're going to choose Merge Down, or you can do New from Visible. So let's try Merge Down. What that does is it merges it all into one layer here. You can see that's all one now. Okay, so now one thing I want to do is scale the car down now that it's one layer. So I'm going to click on the scale tool, click on the object, and up here, before you start scaling it, make sure that your chain is locked here. And what that'll do, if you click this chain and relock it, what that'll do is maintain your aspect ratio. So now I can drag this thing, can drag one of the corner handles, and it'll make it smaller without skewing it. Okay, so I just want to make it smaller before I bring it into Hitfilm. Okay, so it's not tiny there, but it's smaller now. It's manageable. So now I'm going to take this file with no background, and I'm going to export it out back into my resources folder as a PNG file, because PNG files will also eliminate the background if you tell it to. So let's go up to File, Export As, and notice here it's set up to export as a JPEG. So I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says Select File Type by Extension. Click that plus sign, and I'm going to scroll down to PNG. And there's my PNG image, so it should be a PNG file. And we're going to save this right back into, notice here it says Save in Folder, Project 6 Resources. So go ahead and click Export. Save background color, you can just leave that alone. Just don't even touch this. And click Export. And your car should be in there as a PNG. And there it is with no background. So now you're ready to bring it into Hitfilm and start moving it around and creating your motion path. Okay, so we're back here in Hitfilm, and we already have our files set up. So I'm just going to import the racetrack that I'm going to use and the image. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to File, Import, or again, you can do it down here under the Media tab if you have that open. So click on Import. Project Resources, something like that. So I'm going to find that folder. Project 6 Resources, that's right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab, don't forget, don't grab the JPEG, grab the PNG with no background. So let's grab this and see if we can grab them both at the same time. I just held down Shift to click the second one. And there they both are here. And we're going to bring these into a new composite shot. So first, let's take a look at our editor settings here. So if we go to File, Project Settings, if you remember here, it says we have 1387 by 780. So it looks like some things changed here. So we're going to change those back to, I believe it's 960 by 780. So it's always a good idea to check your settings because sometimes they will change on you. 2997, that's what we want. We want a 10-second duration. So instead of 5 here, we're going to change this back to 10. So double check that because sometimes Hitfilm will change things up on you. And we want to make sure that, well, let's see. I don't see a 10-second here. Let's try that again. File, Project Settings. Yeah, we got 10 seconds for our duration here. Here it changed my height. So let's go ahead and do 780. And let's let's unlink the chain here. See where it says preserve aspect ratio? Click that chain to unlink these so you can put whatever numbers you want in there. So 960 by 780. And again, we're going to do 10 seconds. Yep, we're good there. Click OK. Oh, okay, and now we're going all the way to 10 here now. Okay, so that's good. So we can drag this out now all the way to 10 seconds. So now our whole timeline's covered there. Okay, so we got that set up. Now we're going to set up a new composite shot. So we go to the new here in the media tab, composite shot. Again, same thing. We're going to call this, we'll just call this animation. And again, make sure all of your settings are the same. Again, we want a 10-second shot here, not a 30-second. So change that to 10. 960 by 780, 2997. We're good there. So here's our composite shot. So now we're going to bring our car into our composite shot, our animation composite shot, and we're going to bring in our racetrack. Okay, so we have our racetrack there. Notice how large the racetrack is. How are we going to get this to fit into 960 by 780, right? Well, probably the best, easiest way to do that would be to open up the racetrack, go to transform, and we're going to play with the scale, right? Okay, so we're going to get that down. And then what we can do is, again, unlink this chain here. And then we can just adjust the horizontal or the vertical here if we unlink that chain. And so now, if you look at this, if we go back to our layer window here, if I turn the eyeball off on the car, you can see now the track is fitting within our monitor window here. And just to show you, let's see, we can bring this down a little bit. And you can see how everything's fitting in there. Well, that looks pretty good right there. Yeah, so we're good there. So the track's taking up the whole screen there. And so let's bring this back up a little bit so we can see it better. And let's do the car now. So we're going to turn the car back on. And again, just to scale it, let's just open up the transform controls here. And we're going to scale this down to fit on the track. That's probably pretty good right there. We can even start it right there if we want to, or we can just move this around wherever we want. And also don't forget here, this little blue area is the center or the rotation. Now my anchor point is in the right spot. It's about in the center of the car. But if you need to adjust this anchor point so the car rotates correctly, you can always do that under your transform controls where it says anchor point right here. Watch what happens if I adjust this. Let's say when you bring your object in, your anchor point's way over here. Well, watch what happens when I rotate the car now. It's not really rotating on the center, its center of gravity. So to adjust the anchor point, again, don't forget you can move these points around until, and when we talk about anchor point, you guys, we're talking about this little circle here that has the two arrows. That's the center of rotation right here. And so all you have to do to get that into the center of your car is just to move the anchor position coordinates here in the transform controls until you're dead center. Now the anchor point's dead center right here. So when I rotate the car, it's going to rotate correctly. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So that'll be our starting point for our car. And then in the next part of the video, I'll show you how to create a point layer and actually create the motion path separate from the car. Okay, we're back here. And so the next step, once you get your car set in place here, we can actually turn this eyeball off and still see the anchor point, which is a real advantage in this case in how we're doing this thing. So so we're going to leave that car here, but we're just turning off the eyeball, but you can still see the anchor point here. That's really good because that's where I want to start my animation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a new layer in my composite shot here. Okay, and we're going to make what's called a new point layer. So see where it says new layer down here? We're going to click that. And where it says the type of layer, you're going to choose point. So here's point layer right here. Okay, and here's our new layer point right here. And notice here, our car layer is right there. Our point layer is down below here. So I can click this and just kind of move it up close to where the car layer is. The closer they are, I think the better. So I'm going to kind of put them right on top of each other. I mean, it's not essential, but it'll really help. So now on my new point layers where I'm going to create my animation path. Okay, so watch this. This is really cool. Open up your controls. Make sure your scrub key here is at 0. Open up transform. And we're going to do a position keyframe change, right? So we're going to click the little bubble next to the word position. Notice the keyframe started there. And we're going to move this thing along. As we move our scrub key, then we move our anchor point, and look, it's creating a motion path separate from the car. Okay, so I'm just doing this, every few frames or seconds here. Okay, so we're creating a motion path here. Move your scrub key, move your object, and it auto keys for you, which is really nice, right? Move your scrub key and move your anchor point. Okay, same thing here. Trying to do it about equal distant from each other. It won't be perfect, but that's okay. About there. We're going to go up here. Over this way. Maybe about there. And the idea is to have this go around about 10 seconds, right? So right here, we're about 720 into it. So we're getting close. Right here. And then by the time we get to 10, we should be about right back where we started. So maybe about right there, okay? So if I hit play now, if I hit home and then hit the space bar to play it, watch what happens. You don't see anything, right? But it is, you see here how it's following the motion path? Now, if I hit position here, watch, you can see all the points. Okay, and if you look at this, when I click on position, notice here all these handles. You can adjust those if your curve is kind of wonky. Okay, so you can adjust those to kind of smooth things out. Bring them in here a little bit. And just kind of smooth out your angles here. Sometimes they can be a little off there. And that's looking pretty good. Let's try this one here. So you can kind of straighten these out here a little bit. And so you can really make your path nice and smooth if you adjust these handles here. And that is, again, just clicking on the position point there on your point layer. And you can really adjust these, tighten things up if you need to. You can even move the keyframes if you need to. Control Z will undo it. And click on any individual point. You can kind of, like I said, you can tighten these up or open them up a little bit. That's looking pretty good right there, right? So there's our motion path. Now, here's the key. Once you create your motion path on your point layer, all you really need to do is go onto your car layer now. Okay, and let's turn the eyeball back on. And see over here where it says none, next to the right of each layer name where it says none, that's where you would link your layer to another layer. So we're going to click on this little arrow and we're going to parent this car to our point layer, okay, our new point or our point layer. So now this car is parented to the motion path. Now watch, when I hit play, the car is going to follow the motion path. Okay, so pretty cool, right? You can create a motion path on its own point layer, and then you can just link the object to it later, if that makes your life easier, Okay, so now that we have the object going along the motion path, the next thing we want to consider is how do we get the car to rotate correctly? Well, so I'm just going to do it on the new point layer, and it's the same layer where I did the position keyframes, and then the car should follow it. So, because remember, the car is parented to the new point layer right here, because I told the computer that, I told the Hitfilm that, sorry. So let's go to the new point layer, and I want to show you a problem that you might encounter and then a workaround for it. So to start with the rotations, again, we're going to start at 0. And let's say you're going along and you click the rotation keyframe bubble there to start the process, and you go right to where the position keyframe is and do a rotation. Okay. And I'm just going to rotate here this number on the very right. I'm going to click and drag my mouse to rotate it. And you start going along. You're just trying to match your rotations with the position keyframes up here, let's say. And then here you're going to rotate again, maybe about right there. Right here. Okay, and everything seems to be going okay, right, so far? Or appears to be anyway, right? So then you do that. And let's rotate this here. So everything seems to be going okay. Then right there again. Or maybe you rotate it maybe once right there. Okay, that looks good. Then up here, then you're going to go back the other way. Like that. Then the next point here, you want to rotate that here. And right here, you want to do that. Move your scrub key, then move your object, right? That's the process. And once you get to here, of course, it's going to go up that way. And then by the end, you want to have that first keyframe there, right? So we're going to go to the very first keyframe here of the rotation. Just hover over it, hold down the control button, and left click your mouse and hold that down, and then click and drag. And notice there I'm duplicating that first keyframe right here to the very end, okay? So if you look at it that, and then we go across there, and then everything seems to be okay. Let's play it and watch it. Oh, did you see that? There were some weird spins there. Watch again. Up in here, you're going to see the car spin the opposite direction. Or did you see how it did those extra spins, those extra rotations? Okay, let's watch it one more time. Here it spins too many times, then it spins backwards. That's the problem I was talking to you about. You'll run into this problem. And the workaround would be maybe not to keyframe the rotation where every position keyframe is. Maybe do in between them and do maybe more keyframes. So let's take all of these rotation keyframes we just made, select them all, and just delete them. Okay. And let me show you the best way to do this would probably be, again, to click on your rotation bubble to start it. And as you go along, do gradual rotations, okay, and closer together. So by the time we get here, for example, we're going to go this way. And maybe not quite as far or quite as much of a rotation. So do it more gradually and kind of go past, or maybe not in the same as the position keyframes. So right here, let's do another one. Right there, we'll do another one there. And just try to do it more or do more keyframes and more gradually, I think. And you should be okay. So right there, maybe go over just a little bit. Okay, so it's going to take more keyframes to do it this way, but you're probably going to avoid that problem if you do it more gradually and add more rotation keyframes. Okay, so that's the workaround that I found that works. Let's see what we have so far. Okay, so far so good, right? So we don't have any of those weird rotations. So again, more rotation keyframes, and not necessarily right on the position keyframes, right? Not in the same place. And I think you'll be okay. That's the workaround I found. And just do it more keyframes, but more gradual rotations. Okay. We'll do another one there. Another one here. Actually, that's pretty good right there. We won't need to do much there. Maybe one here. We're going back the other way now. Okay, so just keep it gradual and more of them. Okay, so don't skimp on the rotation keyframes. Do a lot of them, and I think you'll be okay. That's kind of a glitch in this program. And I think what it's doing is it's calculating the easiest way to get to that next position. So if it has to rotate the other way, it does. And that's kind of a flaw in the program, I think, in the coding. Okay. Hopefully, let's see what we have so far. Hopefully we won't have any of those weird rotations. Okay, so far so good. So you see what I mean? The more you do the gradual rotations, I think the better off you'll be. And look how many keyframes I'm adding to make this happen. So don't skimp again on the keyframes. Add a lot of rotation keyframes and close together and make it more of a gradual thing like this. And it's tedious, but you'll be glad you did in the end. Okay. Just keep at it, and you eventually get to the end here. Okay, so you got to add your rotation keyframe. And again, I'm just doing this on the point layer. So just like the position keyframes on the point layer, you do the rotation as well. And the car is following it because it's parented to it. Okay, one more here. And then we can take this first keyframe right here in the rotation, click on that very first keyframe, then hold down Control on your keyboard and left click with your mouse button. As you're holding Control and the left mouse button, click and drag the mouse, and notice there I've duplicated that first keyframe. And now it'll be in that position at the end where it started. All right, let's see what we have here. Perfect. Okay. So that, again, when you do the rotation to avoid that weird spin, do gradual ones and do a lot of them. Okay, and I think that's the key to being successful in your loop. Okay, so we've got our position points done on the new point layer. We've also done rotation. The problem we're having now is when the car travels around, it should look like it's traveling underneath this overpass, right? But when we play it now, watch, it just travels right over it here. So it should go under the road, but there it doesn't. So how do we create that illusion that it's going under an underpass or under an overpass? Well, we do that with what's called masking. Okay, so we're going to create a mask, but first we have to duplicate this racetrack layer. So you click on the layer, right click on it, and then just choose duplicate or Control plus D. And so there you see I made a duplicate. Now you grab this duplicate and bring it to the top of your timeline. Notice there it covers everything else up because it's on the top. So the mask is created using the pen masking tool, which is up here next to the monitor window. It's a yellow looking pencil. It's called the freehand mask tool. Just click that little pencil. Then you're going to come out here on the actual layer itself and you're going to draw your mask. Okay. So here's how we do that. Let's zoom in here. See where it says 70% down here. We're going to zoom into 100% there. And let's bring this down a little bit here. And then we're just going to go ahead and draw our mask right on here. So watch this. So you click here and you just start drawing your points. Try to get as close to the line here as possible. You'll probably need to make some adjustments later. Okay, and then maybe one there, and then we can go out here. Okay, we're just going to draw a mask along here. We'll adjust these points some more too. Here it doesn't matter because we're outside of the road, so we don't have to be right on the edge. And then here's probably okay too. So just keep going. Now watch what happens when I join these points. You'll see the car again underneath. Let's go back to 70% here. 66.7. You'll see when I play this that the car is there now. You can see it, and it's going underneath there. Watch, when it goes here, you'll see it go underneath. Okay, so the illusion is created, and I'll show you why this is working. Because what we did was we took this figure eight racetrack and we masked out all the elements except for this little part right here. Okay, that part's visible. Everything else is not. Okay, so you're seeing when you're seeing the whole track here, you're seeing the stuff that's underneath. Okay, so that's working, but the problem is in the beginning we need to see the car, right? Because the car is supposed to have the illusion that it's on top. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an opacity change, right? So you open up this top layer, go to transform, and we're going to start, make sure your scrub key's at the beginning. We're going to start with an opacity key change at 0. And notice there when I brought that opacity down to 0, you see the car again, right? That's because now this mask is invisible, right? And so that's going to be at 0 along the way here until maybe about right here, okay? And so now we're going to bring this thing up to 100 per, well, actually, let's take this 0 keyframe right here. Hold down Control again, left click, and let's keep that at 0 for till about maybe right here. So let's move that keyframe. And then from here to about there, this thing will be up to 100%, right? So I'm going to drag this up to 100%. And so now when you watch it, you can see the car on the top of the road there, but as we go along there, once it gets to about here, you're going to see that mask on this top layer show up to 100%, and the car is going to look like it's going underneath the road. Okay, and so when we get done here, then by the end, it's going to be at 0. So we're going to take this 100%, hold down Control, left click, and duplicate that over here. So it stays at 100% till here. And then by the time the car gets to about here, it's going to be back down to 0. Thus providing the illusion again of the car being up above. Okay, so it's simple opacity changes. So now when you watch it, it's going to have the illusion that it goes under the overpass and then back up above on the top road. Perfect. Okay. So one other thing you may want to do is add a sound effect here. And so I've grabbed that audio track from Canvas, or I need to. So let's go over to Canvas here. Okay. And we're going to go to the resources for motion path parenting video again. And there should be an audio track down below. So we're going to go all the way down here. When you see this audio track, what I do is just right click on it and do a save audio as. So right click on it, save audio as if you can. And we'll call this racing sound. And it's an M4A file, and we'll just save it in our Project 6 resources folder. Click Save. We should be good to go. Or there, it also downloaded. So it may be in your Downloads folder, too. So you can copy that one over, too. Okay. All right. So now that that's done, we can go in and bring our sound in. So let's go back here. There we go. Okay. And let's go ahead and import our sound. So under import, we're going to import media. Project 6 resource folder, grab our racing sound. And there it is. So I can grab this and drop that in. Or what I can do is take this composite shot, which is called animation, and bring it back into my editor, right? So let's go ahead and just bring our animation back into the editor right here. And notice we have a 10-second clip there. And we'll just grab our racing sound and drop that underneath, right? And maybe what we can do is time stretch this or rate stretch it. So let's grab our rate stretch tool and just drag this thing out. May change the pitch of it a little bit, but that may be all we need to do. Okay, and so that basically completes the project. Again, we're creating a new point layer in a new composite shot, right? And in the new point layer is where you can manipulate, or was where you can parent an object to it. And then you can create all of your transformations on your point layer, and the object that's parented to it will follow it. And you can also create masks to create the illusion that objects are traveling underneath things by adjusting the opacity and making changes to the opacity in real time.